There was also some funny detail in there about Prince Louis. He'd apparently been privy to some information about this, that there was going to be a ballet performance. And he'd been asked by Kate not to tell his sister Charlotte, who's a huge ballet fan, of course. I saw Princess Charlotte's face on a monitor at the moment that the Royal Ballet performers sort of literally danced down the aisle in front of her. And it was a picture. Trump is very keen on the royal family.
Really? I feel like he just feels at home when he's with them. Did you see that video? He's just like slouching and William's like this on his sofa.
Did you see the video of the meeting?
The handshake was quite unusual.
I've watched a body language person talk about this. Trump tries to pull William in, but William takes a step away, and it's kind of both of them sort of having their who's in charge here, and it's like they're both kind of like, I'm trying to be in charge but you're not in charge, but also whilst being very nice and polite to one another.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of a Riot Roll podcast with me, Andrea.
And me, Emmy.
In this episode, things are getting festive.
Yes, the royals have had a very Christmassy week with the Princess of Wales's annual carol service at Westminster Abbey.
Meanwhile, the Prince of Wales is doing his bit. He volunteered at the Passage charity and served Christmas lunch to those experiencing homelessness.
And he had quite the trip over the weekend. He braved Storm Darragh and headed to Paris for the reopening of Notre Dame and met up with Jill Biden, Donald Trump and a host of world leaders.
Our royal editor, Emily Nash, has been everywhere but the office this week covering these events, so who better than her to fill us in on the latest news?
Let's welcome her to the show in a moment, but first, shall we talk a little bit about Hello's Royal Club?
Yes, please.
So for those who still might not know, we have a really exciting interactive way of covering the royals.
Yes, we have newsletters that are exclusive to club members. We also have the Royal Dispatch, Royal Wardrobe, Royal Romantic and Royal Archive.
Say royal again.
Royal. So we have got you guys covered. There is also a lot of exclusive behind the scene videos, daily puzzles, polls, voice notes and monthly quiz.
And you're forgetting the most important thing, an ad-free version of this podcast.
So just search online for Hello Royal Club and sign up to our Substack. And if you're watching on YouTube, just click the link above.
Right, should we get Emily on?
Let's do it.
Welcome!
It's so nice to be with you, Emily, today because we actually share an office, but we didn't even see you last week.
It was
busy. Did you have a nice time?
It was busy. It was busy.
It was incredibly busy. And your week kicked off, obviously, with the state visit. Now, that was a day you actually missed. I have to tell everyone, you missed our office Christmas party because you were so busy that day.
Yes, I did turn you down for Buckingham Palace. Which,
we missed you.
We missed you.
Well, I appreciate it.
But our loss is the royals' gain.
Well, I'm not sure I was really officially part of their proceedings, but I did get to go and have a wander through of the banquet setup. Which is always a really lovely moment. And top of my list is to go round the table and look at who's sitting where. And that's when we spotted that David Beckham and Victoria Beckham were going to be attending. So that was quite a fun moment.
What went through your mind when you saw that?
Knighthood. He's so close, he can almost taste it.
Well, no, look, it was interesting because we couldn't really get to the bottom of who he was there on behalf of, whether the Foreign Office had invited him or the Qataris or whether it was the royal household. Of course, he is.
Or himself.
Well, no, he's not quite that powerful, but he's an ambassador for the King's Foundation, as we know. He was swapping beekeeping tips with the King at Highgrove over the summer. And he's obviously been an ambassador as well for the Qatari World Cup a couple of years ago. So lots of connections going on. But he was seated next to the president of Paris Saint-Germain, who's Qatari. And on the other side, Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the opposition. So I would love to have been a fly on the wall.
Yes.
For their dinner chat.
About.
I mean, I know I've got to say, I think if he was talking to Charles about beekeeping, then he might have been Charles's personal guest because you're onto a winner if you're talking to Charles about anything like that, aren't you?
I think just to remind everybody, they were pictured together at Highgrove over the summer and David went full sort of three-piece suit. It was a very hot day, but he obviously really wanted to put his best foot forward.
He knows what he's doing. I'm on to you, Beckham.
Now, obviously, we're talking about the state banquet, so we'll just stay there and then obviously go back to the beginning. But there was another guest that surprised me, and it's Princess Diana's stepbrother. Now, I have to say, I did not even know Princess Diana had a stepbrother.
Yeah, look, so this has been an interesting topic of conversation this week. His name is Henry Legge. He is the son of Reine, Countess Spencer, who was mother of Diana, Princess of Wales. But he was actually attending as the plus one of Cressida Hogg, who is the chief executive of BAE Systems, a defence company. So it was a kind of indirect invitation. these families move in similar circles.
Yeah. Cressida Hogg's quite a posh name, isn't it?
I think, yes. But, and of course, defence being a key part of the discussions going on around this state visit at the moment.
Highlight was Princess Anne's gown, which she first wore when she was in her 30s.
Yeah.
You gotta love Princess Anne.
She was wearing a gown that she wore in her 30s.
Yeah, it's amazing. It was something like from about 40 years ago, and it was straight out of The Rivals. If anyone's seen Jilly Cooper's The Rivals on Disney,
obsessed.
It looked, they had the big puffball sleeves and a very tailored waist, and she obviously has not changed dress size in all that time.
She's so fabulous, isn't she?
Queen of sustainability, I love her.
But, not all of the royals, have to say, were at everything. Everyone was sort of here and there. And I thought Camilla was missing it, but she was inside. I mean, where was everyone?
So, there's been some talk about it being a bit of a royal job share this week. Yeah. The only person I think who attended every element of it was the King and actually Prince William. It began on Tuesday morning with the Prince and Princess of Wales attending the private residence of the Emir and Sheikh Jawahar in London, and then accompanying them to Horse Guards by car, which is a kind of set piece thing. So this happens, there's a big dais set up on Horse Guards Parade. You have all the troops, the Guard of Honour lined up in front. You have a regimental band, and it's run like absolute clockwork. So the King arrives first. There's a national anthem for him. And then the guests arrive, usually with William and Kate. So this was the first time we've seen Kate, obviously, since Remembrance Sunday. It was a big moment for her. We didn't know she was going to be taking part until a couple of days before. And, it was great to see her back out there doing her bit for diplomacy. She was wearing colours reflecting Qatar's national flag. And she looked pretty happy to be back out on duty. And it's tricky, because you're with people you've possibly likely not really met before, having to make small talk in the car, and then standing there for this very official moment where they the King and the Emir went and inspected the guard, and it was freezing cold, let me tell you. I was stood outside for quite a long time. And so what we were told was that the Queen wouldn't be attending that part of the ceremony because understandably she's still recovering from an illness. But it wasn't until a couple of hours later that we were told a little bit more about what had been going on for her. So we got to the picture gallery of Buckingham Palace after this wonderful ceremonial welcome. And of course, the procession goes back in carriages. The royals go in, they have a lunch. And then the tradition is that they have a walk through the picture gallery in Buckingham Palace and they look at items relating to the visiting country taken from the royal collection. So this time it was items that had been given by the Qatari royals to our royals over the years, correspondence, history books, things like that. And Camilla was at the palace for the lunch, and over the lunch she told her guests the reason she hasn't been out that much is that she's been recovering from pneumonia. So obviously this is a chest infection, but a little more serious than perhaps we'd realised. We're told it was viral pneumonia, and that while that's long gone, she is still suffering with post-viral fatigue, which is something that's quite common with this kind of illness. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And it takes a minute. I mean, especially after,
she's just done this enormous tour to the South Pacific. She's done all this travelling. She may or may not have picked up the bug en route. And, while she's got through the infection itself, she needs to pace herself and understandably didn't want to be standing outside in the freezing cold for any amount of time. And similarly, in the evening, she did attend the state banquet. Kate didn't. She opted out of that element, obviously preparing for her carol service, which we'll talk about in a moment. But Camilla posed for the group photograph with the Emir and the Sheikha. And then she sat down for a bit because there's a sort of a lineup where the King and his guests greet everyone else who's there, basically. And she sat out of that bit as well, because again, it would have required her to be on her feet for a little while, for about another 20 minutes. So there's a lot of careful management of people's exact manoeuvres at the moment to make things as seamless as possible. But I think it's really important to have had them all out there because really, I think, and especially the royal women, have quite an important part to play in these diplomatic moments.
Kate was on top form, I have to say. I loved what she wore, obviously. I loved her courtesy to King Charles. I just loved seeing those moments. And she really, I was doing the photos that day, and she was just smiling. and she was just like really happy. I think there must have been a funny moment that obviously in pictures, we missed it, but there's a photo where she really is like smiling.
Andrea, you were having the time of your life with those pictures in the office.
It's just so nice.
See.
Yeah, it's just so nice to see her back out again.
And obviously, it's lovely.
Like you say, we got treated to her again on Friday.
So I was lucky enough to be in the congregation for the carol service. The fourth time she's done this now at Westminster Abbey.
And the fourth time you've attended.
Yes, as you say, I've been very, very lucky.
Not bitter at all, counting.
I'm counting.
No, but it's just magical. And I know we're going to be talking more about it in our next episode as well, because it is going to be aired on ITV on Christmas Eve. But I mean, what a special day.
I want to know though, first, you attended the first and now you've attended the fourth. What differences can you see?
That's a really good question. I think it's evolved in the way that it's had themes. Usually the first one was a sort of post-COVID thing, and the idea was just about people coming together after not having been able to. And then we've also had the theme of early childhood. That was last year. This year is obviously reflected Kate's experience in the past year, and so she's not overtly been referring to her own diagnosis or her treatment, but it's all about those who are there to support people in their darkest times.
It was something of a full circle moment for her, isn't it? Because her carol service last time was sort of her last main engagement before all this, medical situation happened. So, and I think she commented on something like that, didn't she?
So she was speaking to some of the performers ahead of the ceremony.
Yeah.
And I think it was to Paloma Faith, the singer, that she said, I didn't know, or this time last year, I didn't know that I was going to have the year I've just had, which really speaks volumes of how much her life has changed in just 12 months. But there was also some funny detail in there about Prince Louis, who was attending again for the second time. And he'd apparently been privy to some information about this, that there was going to be a ballet performance during the ceremony. And he'd been asked by Kate not to tell his sister Charlotte, who's a huge ballet fan, of course. And she says that he did manage, she thinks, to keep the secret. Now, I saw Princess Charlotte's face on a monitor at the moment that the Royal Ballet performers sort of literally danced down the aisle in front of her. And it was a picture.
Really?
She was beaming. But I also love the fact that Louis, at 6 years old, had apparently said to Kate, Mummy, I'm bursting. Can I tell her? And managed to keep it a secret just for a little bit longer.
That's so cute.
Aww.
Another top Prince Louis moment, I have to say, was the fact when they walked in, they were all holding, what was it, like a
they
red...
looked like luggage tags, didn't they?
That they were going to put in the Christmas tree that was outside Westminster Abbey, and they were going to give their thanks to someone.
So the idea was that this was a kindness tree, and you could make a dedication to someone who supported you throughout your life. So it was really about sort of showing appreciation. And he dedicated one to Granny and Grandpa. That's Carol and Michael Middleton, we believe. And it was to say thank you for playing games with me.
And we know they're big on games.
Oh yeah,
If we've learnned anything from that video, they're big on card games. So I just thought that was very sweet. Obviously, Charlotte and George had theirs very guarded.
Can we talk about how grown up they all look?
I
George
know.
is so tall.
Yeah, they really are.
What's happened?
I think they're feeding him pretty well.
I read on social media that their baby features had just completely gone, and that even Louis now looks just very grown up.
Can we do an age check? How old are they all now?
They are. So George is 11, Charlotte is 9, and Louis is 6.
Oh,
it's gone so fast.
We need another one. They're growing up too fast.
Obviously, they looked incredible. Charlotte is Kate's mini-me. I mean, her luscious hair, even the little bow to match Kate's.
Oh, Kate was rocking some bows.
Yes.
Did you notice? Oh, I'm sure you noticed.
There has been a lot of bows. I know it's something you're picking up on big time.
And velvet, lots of velvet suits.
I'm in the market for a good bow myself. Yeah, I love, especially at Christmas time. It's festive. Would you do a bow?
I could do a bow.
Yeah.
But maybe like here, not here.
They're going to see us in the next episode, and we're all just going to be...
Okay, so there were a lot of family members supporting, obviously, the Princess of Wales in her big annual, carol concert. It was nice to see Lady Gabriella Windsor there. She had just had a very tough week. Beginning of the week, there was an inquest into her late husband's death. So obviously, it was lovely that she was there with all the family members. We also saw the Middletons, Pippa, we saw James and his wife, but there were also a lot of absences, which I thought we could talk about.
Yeah, I mean, Zara was there, Mike wasn't. I think you only need to look at the fact that they have 3 children of a young age and they don't live in London. I mean, you need look no further, really. There for a reason.
Yeah.
And for the same reason, that others were there not attending with the whole family. So I think it's that time of year, isn't it? You get these invitations.
I think Charles was a bit too busy as well. He's a busy guy.
The king is a really busy guy. I know for a fact this week is incredibly busy for him. He's just hosted a state visit. And let's not forget, he's still undergoing cancer treatment. So I think it's absolutely fair that he doesn't attend everything. And he's not actually attended this for the last couple of years.
Well, that brings us to Prince William's trip to Paris, I do think, because obviously that was incredibly last minute, if I'm not mistaken. So fill us in with that. What happened there?
Well, we only found out that this was happening, I believe, on Friday morning. And I think that Kensington Palace only discovered this requirement, just the day before, or possibly a little earlier in the week. It ended up being quite a diplomatic moment because you had world leaders flying in for this huge reopening of Notre Dame Cathedral. And I don't know exactly what happened, but obviously there was a sudden decision that somebody needed to be there. And actually, William is a perfect person to stand in for the king at the moment. The king obviously has met President-elect Trump many times before, but William is carving out this role as a sort of future statesman, if you like. And we've seen it more and more over the last few years. He's really stepped into the role that his father had when he was Prince of Wales, which was to go to a lot of these meetings, do a lot of these bilaterals. He was doing it all on behalf of the late Queen. And William is now in that position and he sort of does need to step up for this. But we have to make it clear that this was at the request of the UK government. This is not him just thinking, I might pop over to Paris and meet Mr. Trump. This is all about cementing ties with the US, just as they're about to change their leadership again. And William is in a great position to do that. I think he knows all these people. He's been round for long enough now.
I read an article calling him a shrewd diplomat.
There we are then.
Yeah. So he obviously went and he dealt with it very, very well.
Well, I think what you have to remember as well is that Trump is very keen on the royal family. He had a lot of affection for the late Queen because his mother was a huge royalist. And, I was told that he spoke to William about the late Queen and that was really appreciated. He shared some fond memories of her. And he obviously has a real soft spot for the royal family. And this is someone who's not particularly unassuming, is he? But he does seem to have a real respect for the royal family.
Really? I feel like he just feels at home when he's with them. Did you see that video? He's just like slouching and William was like this on his sofa and he's like...
Did you see the video of the meeting?
The handshake was quite unusual.
I've watched a body language person talk about this. It's something to do with that Trump tries to pull William in, but William takes a step away, and it's kind of both of them sort of having their, like, is dominance the right word? Like, who's in charge here? And it's like they're both kind of like, I'm trying to be in charge, but you're not in charge. But also Bart's being very nice and polite to one another.
Yeah, I mean,
watch it back, you'll see.
I think you'll find I sent you all the video. It was a really interesting one. I mean, I've been at lots of these moments where you have what we call a grip and grin, and you have this slightly, false moment where the two people are meeting, but you have to kind of go through this almost theatrical, and then stand there and
yeah,
exactly. So it's never the most natural. It's never the most natural arrangement. And also, both of them had like quite monster days because of this huge storm.
Well, he nearly didn't make it. We have to say,
William got there, but he was too late. He was meant to have you'd normally call them bilateral, but a private meeting also with Dr. Jill Biden. Obviously, this is about the transition of power in America and sort of smoothing that relationship with the UK. But that didn't happen in the end because of timing. And in fact, his meeting with Donald Trump was a lot later than initially billed, but it went on for 40 minutes.
I feel like we have to tell our readers there was the most incredible storm on Saturday.
Storm Darragh.
Yeah.
Well, it's still ongoing. It's still lingering,
in some places,
yeah.
But like Saturday was incredible. Like barely anyone left their house.
It was awful.
It was bad.
I left my house. I returned after an hour. I was like, no, no.
I mean, I kept thinking, is he gonna make it?
He loves the flight and turbulence, William. We know nothing else about him.
At least he's a confident pilot himself. So you'd like to think he'd feel safe enough. But yeah, it was a little bit interesting, I'd say.
It was interesting. Now, before he went to Paris, he wrapped up a secret visit at the Passage. And obviously, we didn't find out about it until Sunday when he released a lovely, lovely video on social media.
The Passage? I always said...
Over to you, Emily.
They say the Passage is a homelessness charity that's been running for decades now. And Princess Diana was one of its patrons. And it's the place where she took William and Harry as children.
It means
for
a lot
the
to him
first time. So it's where he was first introduced to the whole issue of homelessness, which we know is now a major part of his work. So this was really, again, talk about coming full circle. And he does go back privately fairly frequently. We know he's been there. It featured in his recent documentary about homelessness. But it was lovely to see him there cooking, helping serve up a Christmas lunch, rolling up his sleeves, getting stuck in. And he's obviously made some real connections with some of the staff there and some of the clients. He sees the same faces. They know him.
Yeah, I was actually reading the comments on social media on his post, and it said you can tell that he visits more than we possibly know, because the way he talks to people and knows their names, it's someone that you haven't just met.
He's a nice man, isn't he, Prince William?
He's doing a top job.
Yeah.
I mean, quite a week. So yeah, from state visits, state banquets, to the homelessness charity, to Trump in Paris.
He must be exhausted.
I know. Well, you'd think he'd be due for a day off, but no, he has a busy week ahead.
Well, soon he will be.
We'll all have a day off soon.
For Christmas.
Come
we
on,
say
Christmas.
that. So what's coming up? Because obviously it's still very busy. And what William shows is a lot goes on behind the scenes that we obviously don't immediately see. We have possibly another Christmas lunch at Windsor for the extended royal family.
Yeah, this normally happens sort of a few days before Christmas. And this is for all the people who don't get to go to Sandringham. Because although Sandringham's...
Not us. Stop, not
although
us.
Sandringham's quite big, it's not quite capable of hosting the very extended royal family. So the late Queen used to do this at Buckingham Palace. She'd have everyone around, cousins, nieces, nephews.
This is where we get the pap shots of them going in their cars.
This is it, traditionally. Yes. Although, since the change of reign, the King has been hosting this at Windsor. So for the last couple of years, it's been there. Now, there is an element of needing to do things at Windsor more, because Buckingham Palace, and I was there on Tuesday, is covered in scaffolding.
Right.
So, and we're about to go into a phase where they are working on the ballroom, the ball supper room, these big state rooms where these huge receptions tend to happen. So it's out of necessity as well as preference, I'd say.
It's also good for them, privacy, because we don't see those car shots as we used to. There are obviously people that already live within the Windsor estate and they don't get seen going in. So we wouldn't really see the Wales family go in, or maybe, Prince Andrew, or if, Sarah Ferguson goes with her daughters. You don't necessarily... So there is an element of privacy, which I guess is better for them.
Yeah, look,
I miss it, obviously.
So. Yeah, of
I miss the shots.
Yeah, because it is something, again, that they don't particularly share. We know that it happens. And then typically the King will go to Sandringham quite soon afterwards.
This is a bit speculative, sorry to interrupt, but I'm just wondering about Buckingham Palace, because this might be from watching The Crown, but is it kind of like they're probably all quite enjoying that there's a lot of work going on at the moment? Because it's not anyone's favourite palace, is it?
That's a really good question. Yeah, I don't know about that, but I think that, look, the King hasn't lived there since he's been on the throne. His home is Clarence House over the road. And I was talking about this with someone the other day, and at the minute, he's using the palace as his office. He does go there. He hosts audiences there. He has his office there. But he goes home to Clarence House.
Things up. His crown, his rules.
Well, and I said to someone else last week, no one works from home anymore. So
very true.
But he is, we understand, paying from his own purse to renovate a suite of rooms, which may eventually become his official residence. So he may still go and live there in future. But we are a few years away from the palace being completed. So we're 2027 for the end of the resurfacing.
Now, you mentioned, King Charles going up to Sandringham. Before he does that, though, he has to do something very important in London, which is record his Christmas speech.
This is true.
Now, we know it usually takes place around this time. What can we expect this year? Because everyone's already talking about it, saying it's going to be his most personal speech to date.
Well, how could it not be?
Exactly. What a year.
Yeah.
I think it's a really interesting question. I've heard from different people different takes on this, actually. And one is that he won't want to make it all about him, because I think he's very conscious that other people are going through really challenging times as well. But if ever there was a moment really to open up, I think this is it. And I think we already see that more from the King than we did with the late Queen. In most of his messaging, you only have to think of the amazing address to the nation he gave the day after she died, which had most people in tears.
Yeah.
He just has a very different style. He is a lot more direct, I think.
Oh.
Speaking of different styles, usually it's just the royal family in Sandringham for Christmas. But this year, Tom Parker Bowles going along for Christmas.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that?
So he has said in an interview that he will be going. The Queen has asked him especially to go this year. She really wants him to be there. He says that they haven't had Christmas together for a while. Now, it's interesting because I do certainly remember speaking to people last year who thought that they had been up to Sandringham as well, Camilla's children, and it may be that they go later. But actually for Christmas Day itself, he's going to be there this year. So that's really lovely for her, isn't it? Because if you remember back, and certainly to the point where she and Charles were newly married, and that point in their relationship, she would go and spend Christmas with the Queen at Sandringham, and then often leave either on Christmas evening or on Boxing Day to go back and spend time with her own children. And that's not, it's not great to not be with everyone, especially with the grandchildren.
So we can definitely expect him to be doing the church walk.
Well, we don't know about that yet. He didn't go so far. He may not. I
think we need a MasterChef level critique of the Christmas food at Sandringham.
Well, that's what I would love to hear. And of course, he's written this book, hasn't he, about royal food. So
a lot of pressure for the cooks.
I'm sure he'll have some notes. Yeah, that's why he's doing interviews. But we do know other family members do get to go. The Middletons have been there and were guests of the Queen, perhaps not on Christmas Day, but James Middleton's talked about doing jigsaws with the late Queen there. And if you go to Sandringham, you can actually see the jigsaw table out in the saloon, which is the sort of first room that you walk into, as if it's just waiting for someone to come and pop a piece in. I was quite tempted, actually.
You should have.
I did ask the curators. I think they sometimes do.
One day we'll get an invite.
You can go.
We're back to that, are we?
No, I mean Christmas.
Oh yeah, well, yeah.
we want a behind the scenes.
I'm tempted to go to Sandringham.
Maybe just keep your other plans, just in case.
I wonder if any of our listeners will be going to Sandringham on Christmas Day. If you are, please let us know. We'd love to talk to you if you do so.
You mean if they go outside the church and watch?
Yes, I love that. Please let us know in the comments.
I think that's a really nice tradition in that village, isn't it? Like they're going to pop out and...
Well, I think a lot of people come from all over the country, actually. Yeah.
Maybe all over the world.
When you opening presents, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Well, you got to go to church anyway, so just might as well have a little walk, and it's nice.
But you're going inside. You're out just outside watching.
No, but they do have maybe not screens, but I think they do put the audio out so people can actually listen to the mass.
Okay, well
I think that's what someone said last year.
Okay, fine.
Love.
I'll let you have it.
Okay, we'll move on because I want to know about Christmas cards. We've already had a few royal Christmas cards, but the first one from the royal family we received over the weekend, Charles and Camilla, but it wasn't a recent photo, which I was a bit bummed about, I'm not going to lie.
No, it was taken in the spring by Millie Pilkington, who's now taken quite a lot of really lovely pictures, particularly of the Wales children in recent years. And it is a really nice image of them both. But we've seen this quite a lot in the last few years, that they give us Christmas cards that aren't particularly festive. It's more just an image that they've really liked,
and they've saved it for this moment, clearly.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's one that that they've put on the wall perhaps at home and thought, oh, actually that was a really good one, let's use that.
So chances are we won't get a new one of the Waleses.
We might. Last year we got a really nice one, black and white.
Oh, lovely.
Again, but studio.
It wasn't festive. So I think we'll see one in the next couple of days.
I think matching jumpers would be cute. We're definitely not going to get matching PJs, obviously. I'm just giving them ideas in case they're still...
This is like a stream of consciousness, how you would do it. Yeah, exactly.
Or one where they're picking out a Christmas tree at Windsor Great.
If you're listening, Your Royal Highness.
Yes, just some tips. Call me.
If you need any tips where to buy some matching jammies, Andrea's your man.
Listen, I buy mine like in October because they're really good price and you can get all the sizes.
Oh my God.
Just another tip. But
Hashtag ad.
Yeah. Well, this was great, and we are having a Christmas special episode with way more information about their festivities. But it was great catching up with you, Emily.
Thank you for having me.
Will you be in the office this week?
I'm going there right now.
Is it less busy than last?
I never like to use the word.
Oh no, actually, that is a forbidden word.
Never use the word quiet.
Sorry.
Well, it's been said.
Well, it's been said.
Hopefully we will be talking about Christmas next week.
Oh, gosh. And that's everything from us today. Thank you so much to Emily and to you two for joining us. We'll be back soon for a special Christmas episode and a look back at 2024.
In the meantime, get more from Hello with our entertainment podcast, The Daily Lowdown, available on Spotify, Apple, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Bye.